So here's the thing with homemade meals. Eating them is great, but all the chopping and measuring and cleanup, not so much. With new one-pan assemble and bake meals from Blue Apron, you get all the flavor of homemade meals with a fraction of the work. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients, bake in the oven, and enjoy. Shop, assemble, and bake at blueapron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
It's Saturday the 17th of January. I'm Ciara Revens, and this was a week that saw Iranian protests continue despite a brutal crackdown. Tory chaos as 2 senior figures defect. Greenland remain on Donald Trump's to-do list, and the Golden Globes light up Hollywood.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
Last weekend saw the US strike at ISIS sites in Syria, and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discuss a potential joint operation against Iran as protests continue against Ayatollah Khomeini. Speaking from Air Force One on Sunday evening, Trump said the US was considering very strong options.
Iran wants to negotiate, yes.
negotiate what?
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up. But we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting.
It's estimated as many as 500 protesters may have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested, with the regime cutting off the internet to make it harder for the protesters to communicate. The initial protests were over inflation and soaring prices, but became focused on the removal of the Supreme Leader. The UK's Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander said that the government has been keeping a close eye on the situation.
The British government has always viewed Iran as a hostile state, and we know that they have been a repressive regime, and so I think the priority as of today is to try and stem the violence that is happening in Iran at the moment.
Monday saw the Iranian regime make a concerted effort to take back control after more than 2 weeks of demonstrations. A pro-government rally took place in Tehran called the Iranian Uprising Against American Zionist Terrorism, but was intended to send a pointed message to both the US and Israel about the risks attached if they sought to intervene in what Iran sees as a domestic issue. Donald Trump was due to be briefed on Tuesday on military options, and he announced a 25% tariff on goods from countries with commercial ties to Iran on Monday night. Former British ambassador to Iran, Sir David Dalton, says the US president needs to be cautious about his next step.
United States military intervention has been disastrous across many countries in the Middle East, and Iran is a harder and bigger target. It should indeed concern us, the idea that there could be a breakdown into total chaos in Iran.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei described the demonstration as a warning to American politicians, although Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was sounding a more diplomatic note.
Iran is not seeking war, yet we are prepared for any preemptive operation. Again, the enemies are miscalculating their moves. We are open to dialogue.
More details emerged on Tuesday about the brutal crackdown that the Iranian regime has imposed on protesters who have spent the last 2 weeks on the streets of Tehran. New reporting from The Guardian says the hospitals in Iran's capital have been overwhelmed with injured protesters suffering from eye and head injuries, with many people losing their sight. It's a tactic the Iranian government has used before, and as details of the brutality emerge, which includes an estimated 2,000 people killed, the European Commission's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, was warning that Europe will take action.
The EU already has sweeping sanctions in place on Iran, and we are discussing on putting additional sanctions.
Donald Trump posted on social media urging protesters to keep protesting and promising in all caps that help is on the way. But it's not clear what that might entail. The UK's Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper condemned the violence, and she said she has summoned Iran's ambassador.
It is a message that I have also delivered directly to the Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi, setting out the UK's total abhorrence at the killings. And today, the Minister for the Middle East, at my instruction, has summoned the Iranian ambassador to call Iran to answer for the horrific reports that we are hearing.
There was a dramatic shift in tone on Wednesday evening from Donald Trump when it came to Iran. He'd been busy posting support for protesters on social media and hinting in all caps that help is coming. But speaking in the Oval Office, he suggested that the Iranian regime has halted the killings. There had been plans for Ayatollah al-Khamenei's regime to start executing protesters, which sparked Trump's warning. And Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed to Fox News the executions have been postponed.
First of all, hanging is out of the question, as I said. This is another piece of misinformation campaign that they have started to provoke President Trump and to drag him into this question, and which could have disastrous consequences.
It was a busy week in UK politics with some dramatic defections from the Tories, but things kicked off with former US Ambassador Peter Mandelson making a rare media appearance on Sunday after his sacking in September. He was removed from his position after email correspondence from Jeffrey Epstein emerged that showed the former cabinet minister maintained a friendship with the convicted sex offender even after his 2008 conviction. Mandelson spoke to the BBC, but he wasn't particularly apologetic, suggesting at one point that because he was a gay man, he wasn't aware of the sexual behaviour of Epstein. He also suggested that his friendship with him was well known in Downing Street.
I understand why I was sacked. Prime Minister found himself in the middle of what must have seemed to him a sort of thermonuclear explosion. I wish I'd had the opportunity to remind him of the circumstances of my relationship, my friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't, so I'm not going to seek to reopen or relitigate this issue. I'm moving on.
Later in the week, Mandelson did in fact apologise, saying that he was wrong to believe Epstein. He hadn't heard much from the Lib Dems so far in the new year until Tuesday, when leader Sir Ed Davey popped up with a brand new diary and a plan of action. That plan includes restoring quite a lot of the pre-Brexit deals with the European Union.
I think we're the only party showing we want to re-engage with Europe in a serious way. To do that, you will certainly have to have a customs union. And so it's creating options for the future, but in the meantime, making sure our economy grows.
Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper was focused on the National Health Service and in particular on the waiting times in A&E, demanding more support to reduce the number of people waiting for 12 hours or more in trolleys.
These numbers have exploded. In the last year under Labour, it's the worst year yet. And those numbers have exploded from just 29 people to more than 45,000 people in November last year. And we say that that scandal has got to end.
This week saw new data that suggests Labour's plan to cut illegal migration has seen the Home Office not just focused on the beaches, they're also busy in the workplace. New statistics show that immigration raids designed to crack down on those working here illegally have hit a new high since Labour took office. There's been a 77% increase in raids on businesses that depend on illegal workers, like nail salons, car washes or barbers, and an 83% rise in arrests. Home Office Minister Alex Norris says it's important to send a message that there's no point trying to enter the UK illegally.
There are countries that are not taking their citizens back, so we're introducing visa sanctions when they don't do that. So we can take the cash away, the proceeds of that crime. But the crucial thing in this is that at the moment the human traffickers say, come to Britain because you'll be able to work illegally, we're sending the strong signal that you can't.
Former Tory leader Margaret Thatcher used to famously say she was not for turning, but the current Labour government seemed to love nothing more than a U-turn at the moment. We've seen a switch on winter fuel, the two-child benefit cap, farm tax, and just last week on the business rates that pubs will have to pay. Now it seems plans for everyone working in the UK to have a digital ID have also been scrapped. The idea was to make it harder for illegal migrants to work in the UK, but Technology Secretary Peter Kyle says that instead they will depend on biometric tests online. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was busy trying to count talk of another U-turn.
I do think this story's been a bit overwritten. You will need mandatory digital ID to be able to work in the UK, because at the moment people are undercut by illegal cheap labour.
Current Tory leader Kemi Badenoch was on the attack at Prime Minister's Question Time, describing the Labour leader as blowing around like a plastic bag in the wind, which sparked a fairly sharp and slightly odd comeback from Starmer.
On consistency, 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed.
There was some unexpected political drama on Tuesday as Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch took to social media at 11 a.m. with a shock announcement that she'd sacked Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick.
I was very sorry to be presented with clear, irrefutable evidence, not just that he was preparing to defect, but he was planning to do so in the most damaging way possible to the Conservative Party and his shadow cabinet colleagues.
It turned out that Jenrick had lined up a switch to Nigel Farage's Reform Party and had even prepared a speech which was scathing about fellow Tories Mel Stride and Priti Patel, amongst others. Badenoch acted quickly in a week which had already seen Nadhim Zahawi switch to Reform, and she managed to spoil Jenrick's surprise announcement on Thursday evening. Nigel was delighted with his latest recruit, describing it as a realignment for the centre-right, although Jenrick showed up late for the event. Prime Minister and Labour leader Keir Starmer was also delighted to see his opponents fighting.
We've got Nigel Farage, who is welcoming these failed politicians into his ranks and building his party as a party of the politicians, Tory politicians, who let the country down so badly.
Apart from Iran, Venezuela and Cuba, US President Donald Trump continued his campaign to take over Greenland across the week. Despite diplomatic efforts from European allies and polite but firm rejections of Trump's approach from the Danish government, he has continued to muse over the Danish territory, insisting that it's essential for US security. He also suggested that America is prepared to do it the easy way or the hard way, a warning that has alarmed residents of Greenland, including local MP Pelle Broberg.
It would be safer if we continue the arrangements we have known, which is international rules-based order, and then Greenland needs to have a defense agreement and security arrangement with the US. We don't need to become American citizens for that to happen.
Donald Trump continued to pine for Greenland on Monday, saying that securing the Danish territory was psychologically important for him and that ownership meant more than just having a military base on the territory. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen pushed back against the idea, saying that Greenland's security firmly belongs in NATO and stressing that we are a democratic society that makes our own decisions. The US president has claimed that both the Russian and Chinese Navy are prepared to take the territory, something that was rejected by China's foreign ministry spokesperson Mao Ning.
China's activities in the Arctic aim to promote peace, stability and sustainable development in the region and are in accordance with international law. The rights and freedoms of all countries to conduct activities in the Arctic in accordance with the law should be fully respected.
Tuesday saw a joint press conference between the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen and her Greenlandic colleague Jens Frederik Nielsen. The two were attempting to put an end to a long-running campaign by US President Donald Trump to take over the Danish territory, which he's threatened to do the easy way or the hard way. There's been talk of a scheme to pay each of Greenland's 60,000 citizens to attempt them to switch alliances to the US, but Greenland's Prime Minister says his people would choose Denmark if asked to make a choice here and now. Danish PM Frederiksen said the door is still open for closer cooperation with the US.
Our message is clear. Greenland is not for sale. We have made that clear from the start, just as we have said to the Americans that if it's about security, there is much more we can and should do together.
Wednesday saw the Danish Foreign Minister and Greenland's Foreign Minister in Washington for a meeting with US Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They were hoping a face-to-face meeting would calm what has become an increasingly tense situation as Donald Trump continues to insist that the US must have Greenland one way or the other. Remarks on Wednesday suggest that his planned Golden Dome missile defense system may be playing a part in his determination to seize the territory, and it certainly didn't sound like any agreement had been reached after the talks. Vivian Motzfeldt is Greenland's foreign minister.
I would like to have this hope for more mutual understanding and trying to find the right balances is equally from all countries.
Two foreign ministers have been proposing closer security cooperation in a high-level working group, but Trump says he cannot rely on Denmark when it comes to America's security. Lars Rasmussen is the Danish foreign minister and an experienced diplomat, but he seemed troubled after what he called frank and constructive talks.
And we want to work closely with the US, but it must, of course, be a respectful kind of cooperation. It is not easy to think innovative about solutions when you wake up every morning to different threats.
The US president hasn't just been causing chaos internationally, he's also in the middle of a number of domestic dramas, which included a restart of his long-running feud with the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Powell was appointed to the role as head of America's central bank by Trump back in 2017, but he's become increasingly frustrated that the Fed hasn't lowered interest rates quickly enough despite the ongoing threat from inflation. The latest move saw a grand jury investigation over whether or not Powell lied to Congress in testimony about building revelations, and it's another example of people Trump dislikes being targeted by his Justice Department. The president says he doesn't know anything about the charges, but Powell wasn't hanging around and released a video to make his own case.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
This week also saw Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. continue with his agenda to make America healthy again. Despite his dislike of vaccines, which has seen a spike in infectious diseases, RFK has been busy inverting America's food pyramid and this week bringing full-fat milk back to America's classrooms. It led to an awkward Oval Office moment with the president over-explaining the type of milk America's kids would be delivered from now on.
It's actually a legal definition, whole milk, and it's whole with a W for those of you that have a problem. Most of the media will get that.
Thursday saw President Trump threaten to invoke the Insurrection Act as the battle between ICE and local residents continued to heat up in Minnesota. There have been increasing protests after an ICE agent shot dead Renee Good last week, and as a swarm of agents descends on the Twin Cities with no sign of any let-up on the pressure campaign. Meanwhile, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado visited the White House and presented her Nobel Peace Prize medal to the American president. It's clear that she's hoping that Trump will help reinstate her party in Venezuela, but former US Ambassador John Bolton doesn't think the gesture will have any real-world impact.
Well, look, it's the price of admission, but it's like somebody giving their Super Bowl ring to somebody else. They're not saying the person won the Super Bowl, they're just saying now they have the ring. Trump has wanted this, he's got it. It's just shameful that this is the way the President of the United States behaves, but I think it was wise of Machado to do it. You have to play with the hand that's dealt you.
Still to come on the Standout 7 in association with Metro, Elon's Grok chatbot is in trouble and Hollywood lights up for the Golden Globes.
Right after this.
So here's the thing with homemade meals. Eating them is great. But all the chopping and measuring and cleanup, not so much. With new one-pan assemble and bake meals from Blue Apron, you get all the flavor of homemade meals with a fraction of the work. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients, bake in the oven, and enjoy. Shop Assemble and Bake at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first two orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Welcome back.
This week saw the United Nations Security Council meet to discuss Russia's latest waves of attacks on Ukraine, which included a nuclear-capable missile. The Oreshnik ballistic missile was fired at the city of Lviv, making it the second time Russia has used the weapon, which is seen as a warning to European nations that Vladimir Putin is not in the mood for peace. Russian strikes have also crippled the Ukrainian power grid, leaving millions without light or heat in the bitterly cold Ukrainian winter. Ukrainian President Zelensky has now declared an energy emergency, and European partners are rushing to provide support and funding. While there's been no sign of further progress on peace talks, Donald Trump's former special envoy to Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, did at least have some complimentary words for the Ukrainian president.
He's a tough son of a bitch. And I remember telling President Trump at one time that, sir, he's a lot like you. I said, and I'm not talking about stature, but he's stubborn. He has his opinion. He's unafraid to say that.
The UK's media regulator Ofcom formally launched an investigation on Monday into Elon Musk's AI bot Grok. They issued a statement highlighting reports that the ex-chatbot account is being used to create undressed images of people, which in the case of images of children may amount to child sexual abuse material. They had contacted X last week and requested more information, but were unsatisfied with the response and have now proceeded to a formal investigation, which could see Elon's platform fined up to 10% of its worldwide revenue. Technology Secretary Peter Kyle said he's glad to see Ofcom doing their job.
What X is doing is disgusting, and it is offensive, and it is also unlawful in this country. We gave powers to Ofcom, which is the independent regulator, but also the enforcement agency, and we are insisting that the Ofcom acts with swiftness.
We'll have more on the Grok chatbot controversy on this Sunday's edition of the Smart 7. Tory Shadow Education Secretary Lara Trott, meanwhile, thinks it's time that the government went a step further and emulated the Australian government's full ban on social media for teens.
We've sleepwalked into a situation where children are addicted to their screens, which is having negative impacts on their mental health, their attainment and their happiness. So it is incumbent on us now to act.
The 83rd Golden Globes Awards took place on Sunday night in Beverly Hills, with comedian Nikki Glaser returning as host. This year saw two iconic women honoured, with Dame Helen Mirren receiving the Cecil B. DeMille Award for her lifetime work in cinema, while Sarah Jessica Parker was presented with the Carl Burnett Award to mark her career in television. This year's awards included a Best Podcast category for the first time, which went to Amy Poehler. All eyes were on Oscar favourites Timothée Chalamet and Ireland's Jessie Buckley, who both won their categories. And it was a good night for British drama as adolescents took home 4 awards, including Best Supporting Actor gongs for Owen Cooper and Erin Doherty. Stephen Graham won for Best Actor in a limited series and got a bit sidetracked in his acceptance speech.
You all know exactly who you are, and without you, none of this is possible. So, Queen Latifah, wow, can't believe it.
Sunday night's Golden Globes Awards saw plenty of other action in the awards too, as Julia Roberts confirmed that she'll be appearing in the latest Ocean's 11 movie, which is now called Ocean's 14. She also says the script is pretty good, and she didn't seem too disappointed to miss out on a Best Actress award at the ceremony. Teyana Taylor did pick up an award, Best Supporting Actress, for One Battle After Another, but she seemed more excited about meeting her idol Julia.
She parted the sea for me. It looked so magical that when she came close, I said, don't come another step. Don't come another step further. My eyes is getting watery. I could not believe that I was meeting her. She's literally one of my heroes, and what she poured into me, like, literally had me crying.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Youth mental health is a complex challenge that requires comprehensive solutions. We must strengthen after-school programs. We must make digital literacy tools available in our schools. We must work with mental health professionals to support children. And we must empower mentors, educators, and parents to keep kids happy. Learn more about our commitment to finding lasting solutions at empowerourfuturecoalition.com/solutions. Paid for by the Coalition to Empower Our Future.
Right now, when you walk into a Burlington, you're walking into deals on top of deals during our Oh Wow Winter Clearance event. That's main character energy. Wow. Find tons of markdowns up to 70% off other retailers' prices on clearance items. Because at Burlington, the deals aren't the only thing turning heads. Save at our Oh Wow Winter Clearance event now. Seriously, with these savings, why shop anywhere else?
Burlington deals, brands, wow.
Styles and selection vary by location.